everything to me. The easy choice would be to stay silent. I look at my country, I've got 3 children. It's my duty as an Englishman to make sure that I hand down a safe and prosperous country to them. They can tell people I'm a figure of hate. They can tell people I'm an extremist. The public don't buy it anymore. Most places I go, I get loved. I get loved by the public because they've tried to make me a leper because I talk about issues that expose their failures. They have failed with mass migration. They failed with integration. They failed with assimilation. The entire British Parliament have pandered and cowered in the face of ideologies that wish to destroy this nation.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back to Conservative Confucius here. We're going to finish up that Tommy Robison interview that we did a few days ago, and let's get right into it, I guess. Don't forget to come and hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, smash the like button, and if you like this video, please share it. Alrighty, let's get right down to it, and let's do it.
I was watching an old show of yours where you were sitting in the audience, and one of the points you made is saying, you know, I get a lot of death threats. And one of the panelists said, oh, Tommy, if only you were a nice person. Do you remember that?
She said, I don't get death threats because I'm a nice person. I said, try and talk about Islam, you'll get death threats. 6 years later, she comes out and tries to talk about Islam, and then she sits on TV crying because she's had a death threat. Yeah? But the death threats against my children were justified, against my wife was justified, my mum. That's all justified because I'm not a bad person. But then she sits there as though she's the voice. And this is what we've seen. The thing is, these interviews are not going to age well for any of them. Yeah? Jeremy Paxman looks like a fool. Okay? Andrew Neil looks like a fool. Every show I went on, as Piers Morgan, fool. Yeah?
I actually watched the one with Piers Morgan recently with you. And it's incredible to see how a few years have changed. You know, what you were saying then, which appeared obviously to people who were living in very sheltered areas. Because this is, I think, a lot of the problem around you was around the fact that you were exposed to things that essentially the heart of London was completely shielded from. The demographic change it was really affecting.
Yeah, that's exactly what reminds me of like when people in New York before Governor Abbott started sending illegals there, they were like, what are you guys complaining about? You guys are racist, you're bigoted, you're whatever, you're xenophobic because you're not allowing these immigrants to come into your lands. And it's like, yeah, but you're not dealing with any of this. You can sit there from your perched, pedestal of liberal New York and complain about how these redneck Republicans in Texas and Arizona don't like immigrants flooding into their states. And somehow that makes them racist and xenophobic. But at the same time, the moment it started happening to you, you freaked out. You said, no, we can't take any of this. Dude, Texas has dealt with over 8 million of them. Arizona's dealt with 3 or 4 million. And then you've dealt with what? 110,000? And your whole city shuts down and your economy is at the brink of collapse? Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. So why is it okay for you to call everyone else racist and xenophobic and whatever? But the moment it happens to you, it's like, whoa. We got to stop this, close the border down immediately, send them somewhere else. There's nowhere else. There's no more room in America. Yep. The moment we told you that 3-4 years before that and said, this is going to end badly. It's already hurting our states. You said, shut up, sit down and stop being racist. Are you kidding me? And it's the same thing that's happening with Tommy. They told him he's being Islamophobic and racist because he doesn't want more Islamist crazies in his neighborhood who are already committing stabbings and machete attacks and bombings and fire and arson attacks and all kinds of stuff and grapings, grooming gangs and graping gangs. And yet somehow he was called xenophobic and racist and Islamophobic for saying those things. And now it's hit London. It's hit all Manchester and Liverpool and all these big cities. And they're now saying, whoa, we got to slow down on this. And it's like, no shit. We told you, 3, 4, 5, 10 plus years ago. And now you're starting to complain.
In the working class. It was affecting children who were going to working class schools. It wasn't upper middle class parents whose girls are being groomed by grooming gangs. It was the working class who seemed to have really no voice, nobody to make themselves heard, and they were discounted based on their accents. And that really feels like that's changed. Who are some of the individuals that would have not touched you beforehand or not even sort of dared to speak with you or be seen with you that have since come out and been willing to interact with you and to be publicly seen with you?
So since the start of the English Defence League, many influential people have met me. Yeah, I'm not going to put them in a position, right?
Sure.
They've met with me because they were desperate. Every time we went onto the streets and done a demonstration, it was a cry for help. Every time, like that Piers Morgan interview, we just had 20 children blown up in Manchester. Yeah. If we look at the Manchester terrorist attack, the police the next day went to the Didsbury Mosque, and the Didsbury Mosque put a banner outside saying, "We love Manchester." And the police took all their pictures outside Didsbury Mosque. I went into Didsbury Mosque, yeah? I got a leaflet. Do you know what the leaflet said? "The music made me do it." This is the mosque that Salman Abedi, who could recite the Quran without looking at it, who was invited into our country, his dad was a terrorist, yeah? They were invited into our country and given safety. He went and blew up children at a concert. The music made me do it. So I read this leaflet, and the leaflet talked about how music is satanic. Yeah, it painted people like Ariana Grande, who is what he went and blew up. So this leaflet's in there. I looked at the preachers that have been there, Abdul Rahim Green, Quick, people who say there must be death to people who leave Islam, people who say kill homosexuals. These were the preachers in that mosque. And then I saw Andy Burnham come out, who's the mayor of Manchester. He come out and said, and we're going to stand against this, fight against this. So I looked at him. He shares a platform with Cage. Cage are an extremist MEND. They're an extremist, Islamist, radical organisation. And the mayor, who says he's going to combat it, shares a platform with them. Yeah, cheers, bro. The police who are there taking pictures, cozy pictures with the imams at the mosque that has been used to radicalise the person to go and blow up the centre. The cowardice in no one since Winston Churchill or William Gladstone, not one single person in that building has spoke about Islam.
Nope.
Bearing in mind how many jihad attacks we've had, we're not even allowed to ask the question.
300 plus.
You're not even allowed to look at Islamic scripture to understand who Muhammad was. It's a conversation that's not allowed to be had, and we have to have it. When I went on that Piers Morgan show, that was the most watched episode of Good Morning Britain there's ever been. Yeah, that's ever been.
I didn't know that.
And that is because the public need this conversation.
Yep.
We are desperate for someone to talk about it. Right now, the reason why the mood's changed, women are scared, parents are scared, they're looking at their country, we don't recognise it anymore. Yeah? There's 1,000 years of English history here, 1,000 years, and they're going to give it away in 60 years. And what you're seeing now is the start of a resistance to it. The issues I tried to talk about in 2009, the public weren't ready to hear them. They're ready now. They're not just ready, we're more determined, we're more focused. I've learned a lot. Stefan, when we met when I was a young man.
One thing I don't get with the whole immigration thing, especially just think about this. I mean, just for example, a perfect example is right now in Mexico, they are now deporting even people who are living there legally because there's too many Americans in Mexico and it's driving up housing prices. And it's like, okay, you know what? I agree with that. I think that Mexico should be able to deport people who are causing working class people to have hard times because they're flooding in there basically in a way almost like not gentrifying, but it's supply and demand. And right now the supply or the demand for high quality things is up, which means that because of that and the supply is low, it's going to cause a rise in cost, which means working class people in the area who don't even want to live in the same type of housing, but just want housing near it, that goes up as well. And then it means working class people can't pay their rent. They can't get a house. They can't get an apartment, whatever it is. And Mexico said, no, enough of you guys. Bye-bye, shoo. And we took them back. And it's like in the exact same time, when we told Mexico, okay, well, we want to send some people back to you, they said, no, we're not going to accept them. Okay. That's how we should be acting. We should be like, no. If you want to send us people back, we're not accepting them, but we'll send them back to you and you're going to take them. Because they're willing to do it to us. Why aren't we willing to do it to them? If not, it's crazy how if you see, no one talks about this, but a whole bunch of Africa is basically overtaken by Indians and mainly they go there for work and they're treated horribly, but it's mainly because the people who treat them horribly are Asians, and Asians, specifically Chinese, have taken over much of Africa and flooded it into it and turned it into like this kind of cronyism, McCarthyism crap. And it's not good. It's not capitalism. It's basically just like monopolyism. It is monopolyism. And they've done this and no one said a thing because it's not white people. If it was white people who did this, this would be front page news about how white colonial, imperial, Western societies and, Europeans and Americans are invading Africa and destabilizing the economy and turning it into a monopoly. And no one's saying that because they're Asian. Communist China is enslaving black people to this day, and no one says a word, literally enslaving, and no one says a word. No mainstream media does this big story on it. Like maybe once every 3 to 5 years, you'll see a 60-minute story on it, but it never gets seen by anybody because no one else knows about it. So 60 Minutes is the only one doing it. So when it plays, people are like, I don't know what this is. If you put it in the news all the time, then people would be like, wow, this is a lot more interesting because they already knew something about it. So they're interested to learn more. But if they know nothing about it, it's really something that they don't really want to pay attention to because they have to put a whole bunch of effort into learning about something new, instead of just having it in their news cycle all the time. And that's the issue with all this, is no one gives a crap when it's white people or when it's non-white people going into a country. So when they come into our countries, they destroy them. And when I mean our countries, technically I'm not really white. I get that. I got Haitian dad, Greek mom. I guess that's kind of white. And then my mom is Jewish. And so, yeah, whatever, but when they come into Western societies, European societies, American societies, whatever, no one says anything. And if you do, you're racist, you're a xenophobe. But if Western societies flood into their countries, specifically white people or people perceived to be white, they immediately call it colonialism. They immediately call it, imperialism and all of this, buzzwords that you hear. And instead of saying, well, maybe they went there because of economic growth. Maybe they went there because they have the same values. Maybe they went there because of this, that, and this. But they don't say that. It's okay for them to flood into our countries, but it's not okay for us to flood into their countries. And that's bullshit. And even the left will say it's not okay. The same side who says there should be no borders says that countries who are poorer, the ones who flood into our countries, they should have borders, but we shouldn't. So we can't flood into their country. And if we try, we get stopped by border. And they say, well, that's right. You shouldn't have snuck into their country. But when someone sneaks into ours, they're like, well, we shouldn't have borders in the first place. That's bullshit.
I was 25 years old. I'd never been political. I come off of a building site to run in the biggest street protest movement Europe's seen. I had some bad times. I had some dark times. I've been in 10 prisons because of this lot. I've been attacked. I've had to walk feeling like I'm walking with a death sentence from jihadists. There's been 6 of them in jail for 20, 30 years planning to kill us. All of that at times played its toll on me as a person.
Of course.
The pressure, but I now can deal with that. Yeah, I've learned to deal with that. They've just tried to destroy my life. The best thing I get is they've spent 15 years with the full weaponization of the globalist corporate media to tell the public who I am. I walk down the street and I'm loved.
How do you feel about that? I know it's a strange question.
I've travelled this country meeting families that have been affected by these rape gangs. I've sat down with the brothers, the mums, the dads. I always said, I've done a 5-part series called The Rape of Britain, and I've always said, when you read about these crimes, don't read about them, you need to feel them. When you meet the mums, you meet the girls, 20 years on, 10 years on, they're still suicidal, they're still on drugs. When you see it, I've seen the problems. I feel anger, disgust with this lot. Right? They've sold our country. They have destroyed our country. We are at, it's now or never for Europe. Yeah, we haven't got long left. With the borders open in the way they are, there is a mass immigration which is changing the face of this country forever. Not for the good. No one can say it's for the good. Yeah, no one. The criminality is going up. The level of violence is going up. Terrorism's going up. We're made to feel like foreigners in our own country. We can't speak up. Yep. So, and when you try and talk up about it, you're not even allowed to have a conversation. Yeah, well, but their labels are far right, their labels are racist, their labels of Islamophobe, gone. Doesn't matter. No one cares now. No one cares. They've overplayed their hand. They've lied and lied and lied. Luckily.
Sadly, in America, people still do care somewhat about that. And that's the reason. Until we really just say, we don't give a shit anymore. And your labels mean nothing to us because they are meaningless. You're giving people these labels when they don't add up. It's not possible for that to be true just because you want it to be true. And it's, we're not going to accept it anymore. That's what we should say. But too many people are afraid to do so. And until we have a large, not just portion of people doing it, but a large, I guess you would say the best way to put it is until mainstream news, not just, I'm not talking about like left wing, but like kind of center-ish stuff starts saying these things, it's not going to be accepted by the people who are still afraid to speak up.
Now I have my social media back, I can counter their lies, expose their lies.
Why do you think so few men have spoken up in the UK and in Europe more generally? Why do you think there is this kind of broad and general cowardice?
It's not, multiple reasons. They've feminised us, they've weakened men, what it is to be a man. They've broke down the family. Many children don't have dads now, purposely, orchestrated. Here in the United States, I know when you look at 1960s, I think 80% of black kids had a dad. Now it's 20%. That's not a mistake.
In the actually it was in America for a long time, the black community outmarried the white community. For the majority of I think it was the 40s and 50s, the black community was more married than the white community. And there were more children born out of wedlock in the white community than in the black community. And that changed in the early 1960s, but it didn't get bad to a point. It was like, then it was, for example, I think it was 86% of children were born with a father in the home in the black community. And I think it was 83% for whites. And that was in 1960. And then in 1975, just 15 years later, it had dropped all the way down to 35 for the black community. And I think it was 44 for the white community. And then by 1985, it dropped all the way down to 21%, where it's basically stayed for the last, however many years. It fluctuates 2 or 3% up and down. And that is ridiculous. I mean, the white community is now getting low too. I mean, there's even some numbers that say the black community is as low as 16%, and the white community is now as low as 24%, which is insane. That is absurd. And it's all because of the Great Welfare Society, or the Great Society Act, the Welfare Act in by LBJ. He hated the Civil Rights Act, and he knew that it would equalize the playing field so much. And so he wanted to come up with something. According to him, his quote was, "These N-words are getting pretty uppity these days. We need to give them something to calm down their uppityness now that they have the power to back up that uppityness. So let's give them something, not enough to make a difference, just enough to keep them quiet." Boom. That's his quote. And then once the Great Society Act passed, this is what he was quoted as saying: "I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 400 years. Like, seriously? I mean, what else do you need to know about this asshole? It was a massive piece of shit.
None of this is a mistake. They break down the family. They want to control what your children are being taught, not a strong father figure. Yeah? They don't want the family unit there. That's where the criminality, they want people relying on the state, not being successful, not having ambitions. And that has been a long process that's come in, where they've chipped at all different things. And then when they've got everyone mortgaged up to the hill, everyone in jobs where they've got diversity departments, yeah, where you can't speak, you'll lose your job. So most people, remember when I started my activism in 2009, I wore a mask and used a fake name, yeah, because I was that person. I was scared, yeah. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to be the person standing here. I knew what comes with it. I had 7 houses and 2 businesses when I started my activism. I was successful. Yeah, I was successful. I lost everything, but so they've got everyone there. So I understand the people who don't want to speak out. They know they're going to lose their job. A totalitarian state, which is what we live under. Yeah, my film's going to prove that on Saturday. The film I'm premiering. They need to set an example with people who talk out. Because if they allow people to talk out, and we're allowed to have the conversations publicly at a mainstream level, we get to look at their failures. Failure after failure after failure, which is what they want to cover up. You're not allowed to have the discussion, so they set an example by losing your job, coming down hard on you, harassing you and persecuting you with the police force, politicised policing, which the whole country now has witnessed.
What are some of the solutions? If you were given absolute power in the UK tomorrow, what would you do?
I'd remove every one of those fake migrants who are in every one of those hotels. Yep. And let me give you an example. So when I was 11 years old, a Bosnian refugee family come and lived in the Bishop family in my road, yeah? The mum come with the little brother and the little sister because the dad was killed in Bosnia, yeah? Real refugees, okay? He grew up to be a wonderful young man, yeah? He's been successful. That is something that you would be proud of as a nation for helping him. That's not what this is. Yeah?
Nope.
This is young, military-aged men coming who are aggressive and hostile to our nation with an alien ideology. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
So I would clear the hotels.
Yeah.
I'd put the military on our borders. Right, it's a national security threat. It was a national. I'll give you another example. One refugee come to Bournemouth in the UK, said he was 15, got put into school,
21.
sexually harassed the girls.
I remember this.
When he's 21, yeah,
So he was 19
he goes
or
out,
something like
he
that.
stabs to death a Royal Marine in the town centre. We then find out he's not 21, right? He's 25. So when you put him in school with our daughters, he was actually 19. Then we find out he shot 2 people dead in Serbia with a machine gun before he come here. Yeah? These are the people, you're playing the lottery with our kids. You're playing the lottery with our country. It was 4 refugees who went on a massacre in Paris, blowing stuff up and killing everyone. The minute one refugee, they've come through 16 safe countries. The minute one of them committed a mass murder or rape, we've had multiple examples of migrants in hotels put up, paid for by us, while homeless British people are sleeping here. Half of London's full of ex-military personnel on the streets, freezing to death.
Same with America.
And in the hotels, you've got 1,000 Somalians, Iraqis, and Afghanis. Yeah, it's absolutely ludicrous. Even when you go into the schooling system, refugees or migrants get preference. So you might have had 100 years of history of a family living on an estate. Your child can't go to the local school. It's like no policies are for British people. Everything is given to migrants who actually don't love this country, not all of them, but there's now a fifth column. There's a fifth column who despise our way of life, who are intent on overthrowing our democracy and replacing it with a Sharia. There's mass numbers of these people now.
Oh, yeah.
And they've aligned themselves. What we're seeing
Hundreds
since
of
October
thousands,
7th
possibly millions.
is an alignment of the far left extremists who wish to bring down the system and replace capitalism.
Yep, they
the
work
Islamist
together.
Extremists and the Nazis. They've all come together.
Yep.
They've all come together because they're Jewish.
Unholy Trinity.
But they've all come together and they align with each other because they want to overthrow the rule of law.
I mean, I've talked about this. I literally called them the Unholy Trinity. The so-called far right Nazis. Then you have the far left insane anarchists, communists, whatever. And then you have the Sharia law, Muslim extremists, which is the majority of Muslims in England, because most of them are actually, they believe in Sharia law. And that's according to a poll where 76% of Muslims in England said they wanted Sharia law. 76%. And that's just, that's not all of them. I mean, obviously they couldn't get all. And according to some polls, they say it's as high as 85 or more. So 85% or more. And that's insane that the majority of the Muslim population, no matter how you look at it, believes in Sharia law, meaning killing people who fall away from the religion, forcefully putting conversion on Jews and Christians and killing them if they don't convert, giving them jizya, making them dhimmis, which are like subjugation taxes, along with making them feel humiliated all the time, perform humiliation rituals once a year while paying the tax. All kinds of disgusting things, beating and killing women, hanging gay people, all kinds. I mean, it literally goes on and on and on and on and on. And yet they're all coming together. This unholy trinity is coming together. And somehow, for some reason, they've done this and they don't see each other as enemies when normally all they do is talk crap on each other. They hate the group next to them, but they're willing, for 2 reasons, they're willing to come together. So this unholy trinity is willing to come together because, one, they want to destroy whatever system they think is in place, or at least put in a new system that they believe in. 2, they hate the Jews. So you have the Jews and then you have the system in place, and all of them want a different system. Somehow I don't understand why they'd work together to overthrow the system when each of them wants something else. The leftists have been convinced that the Muslims are their friends and that they'll help them do a communist society, which is bullshit. And then the right is only using them because they like the Jew hatred that they're spewing. Not the right, right. It's all bullshit. They're not right wing. Half of them are freaking socialists. So yeah.
Pro rule of law. I'm pro democracy, yeah? But we want these people to represent the person on the street.
What are some other policies you would implement, aside from closing the border, deporting the migrants that can be deported?
I'd end Islamic immigration. I'd end Saudi money, Qatari money, Iranian money. Absolutely end it. The Muslim Brotherhood would no longer have a base in this country.
Oh yeah.
The military would be dealing with these people. Yeah, and it is a military issue. Okay, they are a threat to our nation. They have bases. We have given a safe haven to terrorists because it suited us when they were at war in Afghanistan with the Soviet. Because it suited us, we allowed them to come here. We allowed them to set up base. We actually continually fund many mosques with our taxpayers' money in this country. Mosques who have preacher after preacher promoting hatred against us. I would end all of it. I'd end it, and I'd also encourage. We should be having encouragement of our identity, of who we are. Stop trying to teach our children to be ashamed of who they are. People now are scared to even talk. That's how they've got us. People are scared to even talk. Now, freedom of speech is the most pivotal point on this, because if we can't have the discussion, we can never solve the problems. But they don't want us to have the discussion. What's all these hate legislation? I would destroy every law that's come in since Tony Blair, the 4,000 laws they've brought in. All of it is to weaken our society, to weaken the family, to weaken our identity. And whilst they weaken ours, they celebrate everyone else's. They celebrate everyone else's. I'll also have an independent inquiry into the teachings of the Quran, to see if it works. The European Court of Human Rights in 2007 said that Sharia law was incompatible with Western democracy and freedom due to their views on homosexuals, their views on women. Any of the countries that they're coming from, just look at the views. Yep. And that's not, it's like 99% of Afghanis want Sharia law. When you bring in 1,000 of them, like you did probably last week, they don't leave those views on the border. They bring them into enclosed communities where they're being funded.
We're getting all of the ones that do want it, because we're getting the most radical ones from every country, because those countries are like, whoa, you're even too radical for us. Get the hell out. And so instead of going to another country which will kick them out for being too radical, they go to England, where they know they'll be accepted for being a refugee. And then they'll be as radical as they want here, because they know they can get away with anything.
Funded by Saudi, funded by Qatar, all this money's coming in, and then they're promoted. And then when they're being promoted, we now have a lost generation of English youth who don't even know what it is to be English. They've lost their identity, because their identity has come under attack. And then they're turning. They're either converting.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
There's no Cockney rhyming slang in London anymore. It's Jam African. Half the white kids think they're black. They've all lost their sense of who they are.
They think they're black, or they think
all
they're Muslim.
Of them. That's the new generation coming through, because, and again, I'll give you an example. I grew up in Luton Town. When it's Eid, there's a massive fairgrounds, there's massive celebration. When it's St. Patrick's Day, there's a 3-day festival. When it's St. Lucian Day, because I've got mates at Solution, they have big fairgrounds and big party. When it's St. George's Day, it's banned. That's what it was like growing up for us. The school put out a letter, if you bring in the emblem of St. George, on St. George's Day, your children will be sent home. What message are you sending? Every school should be flying the St. George's flag. Every child should be encouraged. Every child. Like as I said, my mum was an Irish immigrant to this country. And my mum was an Irish immigrant. I'm an Englishman. I love this country because that's how I was brought up. That's how all children coming from countries, if we want them to embrace.
Yeah, exactly. They should feel like this is their home,
to separate.
Not feel like
they encourage them not to assimilate.
Yeah, exactly. They've encouraged them that their culture is just as important as our culture. And I'm not saying their culture isn't important, but what we've taught kids is that you can be whatever you want of your old country and then still be part of this one. And you don't have to accept the new one. You can just be, because Indian is more important. Your culture is more important than our white Western, whatever culture they want to say. England, that's white Western. It's more, your culture is more important than that. So you be Indian, or you be Pakistani, or you be Bangladeshi, or you be Afghanistani, or Afghani, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. They continually say these things to these people because they don't want to be viewed as racist. Instead, how about you say, okay, your culture is cool, but why did you leave your culture? Why did you come over here to our culture? And then you say, okay, well, maybe then you just take the parts that you like about your culture, the parts that you didn't have to flee from, the parts that didn't try to kill you, or, maybe you weren't kicked out for taking part in, and then you throw those away. And then you keep the parts you like that are good. And then the rest of the culture that you're missing in that area, you take into ours. You assimilate the rest of that. And then maybe your religion is the old one. And then maybe your, I don't know, your dining practices are your old one. Maybe your, I don't know, holiday practices are your old one. And then the rest is all, your new country. And that's how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to assimilate. That's how it's been forever. Whenever another country or a person went to another country, they would bring their religion, they'd bring their holiday practices, and they would bring their dining practices, basically. And then everything else was taken in. Like, they would share that with the community too. They'd share their holidays and their dining and their, culinary and their, what holidays and their whatever religion even. And then the rest of everything, they'd absorb everything else. And it was a way for them to share with the community the things that did matter, expunge the things that don't, expel those, and then absorb all of the great things from our own country, from their new country. And no one is doing that anymore. It's no longer happening.
Allowed these ghettos to grow and grow and grow. And whilst they grow, anyone who tries to talk about it, they've silenced. Not just silenced, there's been a massive effort, a combined effort of politicians, big tech organizations, massive corporations, to not just silence, but they actually actively try to destroy anyone who tries to counter the narrative. And the problem for the left is, it was all right when they were destroying me, because I talked about open border immigration, and it was me that was being censored. Then it become doctors, then it become nurses. Yeah,
comes everybody.
Then you can't talk against transgenderism. Even J.K. Rowling now is a figure of hate. Yeah, the goalposts continually shift. So long as they're allowed to decide what we can talk about, yeah, and the topics you're allowed to, or they control the narrative with their media, who continually pump their lies. The answer to a lot of these problems is citizen journalism. The answer is groups like yourself. You've set up. You've become a voice that people can trust. There's so many that when I first started, there was just me talking about these issues. Now we're about to hold a rally on June the 1st. Maya Tusi, Calvin Robinson, Priest, Lawrence Fox, the Voice of Wales. There is now a consortium of citizen journalists and people with platforms who are coming together to highlight issues and to beat down their narrative.
Yep.
Do you think it might be too late, Tommy?
No, I think that it's only too late when you stop fighting. You've only lost when you stop fighting. And I believe that these cowards, when it shifts, the Overton window has shifted a lot since we first met.
It's shifted a lot.
It's shifting every week.
A lot.
Mass deportations are now becoming common discussion. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Donald Trump gets in and starts mass deportations. It gives the ability for Geert Wilders. It gives the ability for Le Pen. It gives the ability for Philip de Winter, hopefully, if he wins in Belgium. It gives the ability for European countries to start saying, and why not? I saw the Swedish Democrat Party put in yesterday, I believe, or the day before, that even if they don't have evidence against the criminal migrant gangs, they're booting them.
Hell yeah.
Why wouldn't you? These people they're bringing nothing to the country.
Doesn't matter if they continue to commit crimes or you.
I saw that Malmo is now rated as dangerous as Kabul in Afghanistan.
Do it anyway.
Malmo has the second highest rate per capita outside of South Africa, I believe. Malmo in Sweden. Yeah, this lot, have destroyed the stability and the safety. When they've took the safety of your children, if you don't feel safe that your daughter, I went to Prague. And when we was with some, I was only a few years ago, and the girl was going home. I said, no, we'll walk you home. She said, don't be stupid. I said, no, we'll walk you home. You couldn't let a girl walk home in London. You could not leave a female walking home in London, yeah? Not without serious risk.
Oh, yeah.
They've took the safety
Worse
away.
in Paris.
It's becoming normalised. Rape is normalised. Violent attacks, and it's by migrant men. I'm sorry, but Muslim men make up 2.5% of the UK population. They are responsible for 90% of the convictions.
Yep.
90%.
90%.
In gang rape, 90%. And 30%.
Yeah, not only that, but you to look at edophilia, 86% of all people who are being caught for edophilia, whether it's they tried to contact a minor and were caught beforehand, or they're caught after the act or during the act, 86% of them are Muslim men. What's even crazier is the majority of them are named Mohammed. I've covered this for a while. I would look at David Atherton on Twitter, a lot of his posts, and I started noticing that trend of they would be named Mohammed. So I literally started calling them Mo predators, M-O-H predator. And that term is actually caught on Twitter. It's now something people use all the time. And it's just ridiculous. I said it as a joke, and it's so true that people are like, yeah, yeah. And now it's trendy to say it. And it's unbelievable that how bad it's gotten over there with Muslim men just attacking women, graping women, grooming women, girls, children. It's disgusting. Just go to David Atherton, Atherton. So David Atherton on Twitter, and check out his page, and you should see a decent amount of these. He posts a lot of other stuff now recently, but if you just type in like Mohammed under his page, when you can search someone's Twitter page for certain things on your phone, just type in Mohammed or Muhammad, either one, with an O or U, either way, and you'll see tons. I'm talking like dozens upon dozens upon dozens of Muslim men caught for this stuff, and they're almost always from Pakistan too. It's crazy.
Men convicted are called Mohammed.
See, are you religious at all, Tommy?
I'm being pushed more to. I wasn't.
Tell me about it.
I'll tell you about it. As I've watched as we've gone on, and I see Christianity totally under attack. Yeah, my mum's a devout Catholic. My mum is, yeah. But I felt betrayed. I remember when I started the English Defence League, I spoke to Deacon Jerry at the church and said, I'm struggling with Islam, massively struggling. The more I've looked into it, the more I understand who Muhammad was. And he said, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And he got to the point where he said, forgive us our trespasses if we forgive those who trespass against us. And he made a point of that. I said, forgive them. That's your answer. Christianity wouldn't still be here if it was that weak. Yeah. What Christianity now has become, I believe the church has been infiltrated by Marxists who don't even believe in Jesus or God.
Oh, yeah.
And they've used it for their own political agenda and to push their own political messages. Transgenderism,
Look at America.
inviting 200 trannies into
Yeah, look at America. You have all these like transvestites and drag queens coming in, and you got the rainbow sash on the priests and stuff. It's disgusting. Especially the Episcopalian Church of of America is just by far probably the most disgusting of them all. And people used to call it Catholic light because it was basically Catholic, but just, not you didn't have all the saints, you didn't pray to Mary, and you didn't have confession, but everything else is the same. The incense, the outfits, the kneeling for communion, all of that. But it's now become so corrupt and like just infested with LGBTQ woke nonsense. They won't say that they'll say Jesus is non-binary because he was born of only a woman. So that means he only has they'll say he's like a hermaphrodite. It's disgusting. Everything they say about everything in religion, these people have infested it. It's all neo-Marxist woke bullshit.
Insanity, yeah? It's insanity. But what we've done by destroying Christianity and losing faith in Christianity is leave a void. Yep. And that void's being filled.
Yeah,
and lots of young men are converting to Islam. Islam is strong. I hand it to Islam. It's strong on its principles. It will not bow down.
There's a difference between strength and, I guess, like, what's the best way to put it? So you can see a strong man and then you can see a bully. And people are taking Islam and thinking that's strong. No, that's a bully. That's not strength. Being a bully isn't strong. It's weak. But they're using this fake strength to tell everyone, look at us, we're strong. And no, you're a bully, you're a monster, and you're vicious. That's not strength. That's weakness parading and masquerading as strength.
Changes
as religious people, whether it's Jews, Christians, Messianic Jews like myself who believe in Christ, but still practice much of the Jewish traditions. We need to call this out and say, no, you're not strong. You're weak. You are masquerading as strong. You're just a bully. And until people start saying that, it's never gonna. Young men aren't gonna wake up, especially young men within our own religions.
Yeah, I admire it.
You have to.
I admire
there is something admirable about these men having such a devout faith and such absolute conviction in it. It's admirable. There's something impressive about it.
It's admirable, but it's not
brainwashing.
Faith, yeah? Which will say, well,
cults
okay,
are
so
like
you take
that.
the bits you like.
What
about this bit? What about the verses?
Would you say the same thing about Scientology or cult? Any other cult? No, you would say that's they're delusional. They're brainwashed, and the reason they're so strong in their beliefs is because they've been brainwashed to think that. And that's not something you should be admiring. That's something you should be terrified of and be fearful of, and make sure that you're acting upon it to make sure that doesn't happen to you and the people you love.
To say this, you can't ignore that. Yeah?
I know.
That's a problem. Yeah? But I see that the more I've seen the satanic symbolism, I know these things would be seen as conspiracy theories. The more I see Christianity under attack in America and across Europe, the more it draws me towards it. The more I believe, the more I see evil and Satanism, which we're seeing, the more I see that, the more there has to be the other side. So for the first time I said, I'm pushing that way more now than ever. I've always wanted to believe. I've sat in prison cells for months just thinking.
Yeah, dude, I'll pray for you, bro. I'll pray for you. That God reveals himself to you. And yeah. Let's finish this up real quick.
Show me. And I say to people, even if you don't believe, then the Christian way of life and the Christian culture is a great ethos for our country. It's a great thing that built this nation. And I saw an interview with the Queen which said, what would you say built Great Britain? She just held up the Bible.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. Judeo-Christian values are the center to all Western civilizations. And without them, there is no Western civilization. And the fact that we think Western civilization is this neo-Marxist liberal bullshit, that's what we've turned it into in the last 110 years. And we've destroyed our own system. We destroyed our own countries, all in the name of progressivism, which is regressivism, really. But yeah. Alrighty, guys. That'll be it for this video. Don't forget to go down there, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications. And if you really like this video, please share it. It really helps us. Don't forget sharing and subscribing. Make sure you do it. Alrighty, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you later.